Sego, bonsoir, and good evening, and welcome to the October 25th Council meeting. We'd like to have a moment of personal reflection. Thank you. We'd like to stand for the national anthem. Councillor Gardner, would you mind?
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada.
This month is Councillor Caroline Hebert. We acknowledge that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Mohawk people of Akwesasne. Roll call.
Mayor Glenn Grant.
Present.
Councillors Claude McIntosh. Dennis Carr. Sid Gardner.
Here.
Dean Hollingsworth.
Present.
Caroline Hébert.
Présente.
Councillors Maurice Dupel.
Present, Madam Clerk.
Elaine McDonald.
Present.
Todd Bennett.
Present.
Justin Towndale.
Present.
And Eric Bergeron.
Present.
All present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to ask Council's indulgence. I want to make a motion that we suspend the rules and we admit a presentation this evening. We have a display that was created on Akwesasne, and we have 3 people here who are our guests who will speak to it. If we can add this delegation to the
Second
agenda.
by Councillor Bennett. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Hollingsworth, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any disclosure of interest in tonight's meeting? Hearing none. Motion to go into committee of the whole. Councillor Dupel, Councillor Towndale, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. I have a motion to adopt the minutes of Tuesday, October 12th, 2021 meeting. Councillor McIntosh, Councillor McDonald, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce our guests. We have at the middle of the table, we have Yagon Leon Iosta, who is the Executive Director of the newly renovated museum on Akwesasne, the Native North American Traveling College. And assisting her is Carrie Benedict and May Thomas. And they'll speak in whatever order they choose. I'll let Yagon Iosta direct the presentation. Thank you.
Segos de Wagoego. Thank you for having us here tonight. It's an honor to be able to speak to you. It's also an honor to be able to speak on behalf of the artwork that is presented today. I hope you each get a chance to go up and see some of the intricacies of that women put into the vamps. The vamps are part of a moccasin, and each one is designed to go on a pair of moccasins that would fit a child. The reason that exhibit was made was because of the founding, they found 215 non-identified burial sites at a boarding school in Canada, and that was just the beginning. After that, they think that they've had a total of 6,500 and almost 89 burial sites found not only in Canada but in the United States. Many people are expressing their opinions, expressing their emotions, expressing their grief, expressing their happiness also at being able to survive such almost 150 years of forced education and forced confinement and abuse of our people. When the ideal came forward, Tracy Thomas from Akwesasne had the idea, Thompson, and she worked with some people out in British Columbia, and they decided that they would all do similar projects. So when we went to Ottawa on the 30th, we had expected to see more people from British Columbia there, but I think they were having their own demonstrations out there. So the interesting thing that we saw when we went to Ottawa was that even though we were deeply affected by the discovery of the burial sites, that also there were many, many Canadians that were also affected. There were thousands of people on the Capitol that day, and everyone was dressed in orange. It was just an outpouring of emotion, and I think that the hardest thing for the Canadian citizens that we encountered that day was that such horrible things could happen and not have been told. They said they're just disbelief that one, it occurred, and two, that they hadn't learned anything about it. Of course, our people knew that terrible things were happening, but nobody, I don't believe, had that insight to know just how bad it was. Because when everybody came home, we've been told by people that were in the boarding schools that people didn't believe them. They would say it was a dream, or they would say that, you know, they were exaggerating, but now we're finding that that wasn't true, that their words were true. They were just children, and they needed to express to people, and they needed people to understand, and nobody did. They just acted like it didn't happen. And so when it came to light, people wanted to wrap their arms around them and to show that we are hoping that they are all resting in peace, and we are hoping that the Canadian people will learn from these horrible pasts and go forward and try to help each other to have better minds and to embrace each other and move forward as a joint country, North America, the whole North America, that we could move forward and have a better future for our children. One of the speakers at one of the events had said that maybe the Canadian government would learn that we can educate our own children probably better than anyone else could, and that schools like the Akwesasne Freedom School in Akwesasne has done an excellent job of educating our own children, and we're hoping that the Canadian government will support schools like that throughout Canada. I'd like to introduce May Thomas. She's the curator of the exhibit, and she's done a lot of organizing to make sure that it got here today.
Sego zewa gwego, ganun ko hawa yung get, so akskala wage no Akwesasne no etigetalo. So hi everybody. My Mohawk name is Ganun ko Hawi, but my English name is Lorna May. I use both names. I'm Bear Clan from Akwesasne, and I'm part of the Mohawk Nation. It's been a really big privilege and honor to work closely with Tracy on this project. Growing up, you hear a lot about these stories and these experiences from family members and non-family members, and it's something that as Indigenous youth, that you're just kind of, sometimes you're desensitized, right, because we're so used to hearing about it. So working with this project and working on it with Tracy, it was really amazing to see our community come together. And there's about 60 different artists represented on that board, and different people had different goals and designs and symbolism in their vamps that they did. And we have about 221 on display right now. That's not nearly enough to represent the children who are still being found and haven't been found in the burial sites, but also children who ran away and did not make it home. So it's it's a little it's really emotional to think about it and hear about it as you're going through the process. And as I went through the process, I was just thinking logistically, and then after, the day before we actually unveiled it to the public, I couldn't stop crying. Anyways, there were two goals in mind when it came to creating this project. The first was that we wanted our own community to be represented and understood. So that was the first part, was collecting these vamps, and we had a call out. We had different workshops in place to encourage people. We wanted to make everything accessible, from the teaching to the supplies to just everything, because beading for a lot of people in our community is a form of healing and expression, and that's what, helps decompress, and different things came out of it. And there's a lot of orange in this display, and that's, people did that on purpose. And I think that's really one of the amazing things about it. And we had people, one person in particular, she doesn't bead, but she makes baskets. And so 2 of those vamps are actually woven with black ash splint on the ends. So if you get the chance later to look at them, really give them a look, because a lot of these designs are really symbolic. The orange is purposeful. Some of them are t-shirts, some of them are braids, other ones are symbolism like strawberries that come from our creation story. And the other component to this was that we'd be able to educate people, because this is a shared history, however you want to look at it. And we just wanted to make sure that our non-Indigenous, citizens, neighbors, had the chance to really see it. And when you think about all those as little tiny babies' feet or footsteps, it makes you feel something. So thank you for letting me speak today. And I want to pass it over to Carrie Benedict, who was really instrumental in getting the display, bringing it to life.
Hi, everybody. So really my role in this project was, I don't know, I want to say it was kind of like accidental. My friend Becky Biro works at the Traveling College, and she had asked me, she had told me about it. She says, I have a packet, do you want to take one? Do you want to make some vamps? Sure. So that's kind of where it started. I took one and kind of sat on it for a while. And then she said, oh, we're having a meeting. Do you want to come? Tracy's going to be there, sure. So I kind of went, and so Tracy did a series of classes to teach the beaded moccasin vamps in her style, like a raised beadwork. She had like, 3 or 4. She couldn't make one, so I was asked to come and stand in, and it was great, like she does a certain style, I do a certain style. So whoever was there got to learn, learn the different styles of beading and the different styles from the different artists that contributed to that. So I actually did a couple of classes for the museum, that the library museum in the States. I did a couple classes there. We just kind of like handed out vamp packets with all the materials that had your backing, if you wanted beads, if you needed help, you could sit and do that, and we teach you everything. So that was part of what I did, and the other part was kind of the construction of the display itself. So Tracy's brother Fred works at the Traveling College. He's their handy guy, and so he says, I have this idea. So we came up, kind of like through ideas back and forth. So he says, okay, three panels in a circle. They're plywood. Okay, in my mind, how are we going to get all these moccasin vamps to stick on plywood? I'm like, we need something. We need, like a barrier or whatever. So I took it home, and I sat on the boards for a few days. Not literally sat on them, but sat there looking at them. How are we going to get this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? So, okay, all of a sudden it comes into my mind, we need to have like a buffer, a padding, whatever. So I go over to Giroux's, one of my favorite places over here in Cornwall, and I got foam. So on top of the plywood board, there's foam. There is a velour blanket on top of the foam, and on top of the foam is just, on top of all that is black fabric. And we just stapled that on. And then Tracy's brother, Fred, just had this idea. He says, I'm gonna do this, 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 and this. And I was like, all right, that sounds really cool. But once, I delivered everything, we got everything all set, he did his magic. I come in the next day and I was like, this is amazing. It's just his ideas, his ingenuity of how to stand it up, how he's gonna, have them fold for transport to keep it stabilized. So that was kind of, part of what I did. And then, so we're sitting there and we have all the vamps. Tracy's sitting down and we have a big table like this. We set out all the vamps. I said, okay, Tracy, we have a picture, the emblem in the middle. We just kind of pinned it up there on paper. So, okay, give me a vamp, where do you want it to go? So we kind of did a dry run of how things were gonna go, and I think we set the center row, the outside row, and a middle row, and I think we did that for probably a good 5 hours, just, okay, give me a vamp, where do you want it to go? We kind of went, do we need to move this, that, whatever, and like I saw her vision in my mind. I had an idea in my mind, but it wasn't until stepping back and taking a look did it just like, it was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And it's like really overwhelming. So I was asked before, how do people decide what they're gonna put on their vamp? So what I had told them was, it's really what comes from your heart, from your mind, what you feel, what you feel you want to put down. So you have that idea and you start, you start and you go, you do your beads, and it may look right, it may look wrong, some people pull it out, doesn't feel right, and then you just go again. But majority of what you see there is what people feel and felt in their hearts and their minds to put on there. I'm sorry. So it's really overwhelming and it's very emotional to think about all this stuff. I have 5 children from 2 to 15, and I just cannot even fathom or imagine them not being with me or coming home to me after school. So it's really emotional. So very recently, I found out that my biological grandparents were residential school survivors, and it really makes sense seeing, my family, my aunts and uncles, my father, how they were raised, how my father raised his children, not me, I wasn't raised by him, but how that kind of passes on. And so this is really, like I said, everything comes from the heart. So this is really healing. And I've actually participated in a couple of others. One of the women who taught me how to do beading, Jessica Hernandez, did something very similar. She collected actual moccasins. So it was really whatever style, whatever was in your heart. And she had some amazing things go. One person did moccasins in complete corn husk, wove corn husk. And one other thing that I participated in was I came across a post on Facebook of Star Quilt. This woman from British Columbia was looking to collect 215 Star Quilts to send to the survivors, the families, whatever, let their band decide what they were going to do with that. So, like I said, I have 5 children. So in my heart, my mind, okay, I feel I need to do something. I need something for these guys. So what I did was I took, each of my children has had a traditional outfit, like a fabric like this, a print, a solid, whatever that we make into, an outfit for them. And I had leftover, so each blanket, I sent 5 baby blankets. I put a piece of every one of their shirts or their dresses or their skirts in there. And I put a little story with it, like if it was something that was, that was significant. My oldest graduated from the Akwesasne Freedom School, and she did her traditional outfit. Yogotni Goliosta had a quilt shop, a fabric shop on the island, and my daughter picked her fabric out from there, and, we really helped her with that. So that fabric from her shop went into her outfit, which in turn went into one of the blankets, so that was something for each one of my children. But like I said, I felt like I needed to do something, not only this, I just reached out. This display here is, like May had said, specific to our community, to our people's healing. But I felt like I needed to help other people heal. So I'm sorry if I got off on a tangent, but I just, that's what was in here that I felt needed to, be told to you. Thank you.
I want to thank you very much for your very moving presentations. It almost trivializes the spirit of the display to call it art, because it's really a memorial as much as it is a work of art. So I've got a couple of questions. I'm wondering, where will its permanent home be?
The permanent home will be back at the Native North American The permanent home will be back at the Native North American Traveling College as soon as it stops traveling. We're gonna set it up on the wall so that it can actually come down, because people do want to see it in other places, but that's where its home will be.
Great. And I would just love our viewers to be aware that tomorrow morning, the display is going to go to the public library, where it will be for a week, and then until Friday afternoon. So another question is, I know a few art groups, and I'm pretty sure that at least one of them would love to do a workshop on beading. I suppose, is that something we should line up to do over at the college, or would you come here and teach that? Or should we just discuss that in an email and see what works?
We could discuss that in an email. These two ladies are very good at doing beadwork of all kinds. I have two that are up there, but they were my first, and I wouldn't teach anybody.
Okay, well, I think that's probably something we will definitely do. So I thank you again for letting us have it and coming and speaking of it to us.
I would just like to add that both of my parents are survivors of boarding school. They both were Mohawk language speakers. They both had Mohawk names. Me and my brothers and sisters don't speak the language. They wouldn't speak it to us. The story's been told over and over from many families that the boarding schools did their work. They made them believe that it would be better for us to speak English or French, and we weren't given Mohawk names. And my name today is Yogotni Goliosta because I felt that my parents not giving us a name was a real sign of oppression. And I feel that me and my children are no longer going to be oppressed. We are standing up for ourselves, and we're standing up for our people, and that we are proud to carry our Mohawk names, even though it may be hard to say. I think that the time of accommodating people who don't speak our language has got to come to an end.
Thank you. Councilor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to thank you for that. Some people know how furious I was when I first started to learn about what had happened to these children. I have a sister-in-law whose mother was in the residential schools, and the harm that was done not only to her mother but to my sister-in-law through what happened. I have to, the young lady on the left, I was furious when I found out what had happened to them, because I have 3 boys, and like you, in my heart, I could see that happening to my 3 boys. And the word I used around this table one night was, what happened to those children was bloody evil. It was evil, and people knew what was going on and did nothing about it. So I thank you again for being here, for letting our public know on TV that this is a reality, and to see the emotion that came from you is amazing. Thank you for that.
Okay. Councillor Ebert.
Nyawa Goa for bringing this beautiful piece of, like Councillor McDonald said, not just art, but emotion, pain, healing to us, to help a little bit in our education, which is something I want to touch on. You know, I think our school systems are trying to do things a little bit better, but I didn't learn our first history when I was in school. I learned a history, but I didn't learn our first history, which is what we should be focusing on. We send kids to school for many years, and we glance over it, and it really should be a whole focus of a history class, so that we can understand, because we haven't lived it, or my ancestors haven't lived it, and so we really need to be teaching our youth, and so that this oppression can stop. And on that note, I was going to ask this during our, at the end of the meeting for committees of council, but a couple of months ago I asked about when we'd be doing our cultural and sensitivity training, and I'm wondering if there's an update on that, if there's a date in mind, and if not, if we can leave it on our unfinished business listing until we do schedule that for council, and I hope for a majority of staff. If we're going to move forward in a healthy, strong relationship with our neighbors in Akwesasne, I think this is really the next step we need to take, is our own education and our own sensitivity training. And so, yeah, just wondering where we are with planning that.
And MCAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I do have, I have had conversations with First People. So First Peoples is the group that we've been planning the training with. It would be held indoors, and I think that we're looking at, likely we would need an evening or a day. The mayor and I did have some conversations about maybe looking at a Saturday morning as opposed to doing it at the end of the day. And then I've also had some conversations following our September 30th event, wondering if it might be good to have the traditional burning of tobacco maybe at the beginning of the event. If we did it here, for example, we might be able to do it just outside on the deck. But so those are in plans that are being made. It's coming up with a date that would work for everyone.
Okay. Okay, great. And I just want to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity to gather on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee people. Thank you. Nyawa.
Well, if I don't see any more, thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's helped all of us to get together closer. We've got partnerships now with the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne on different projects, and I think you learn about one another by being together, not by being separated, and I think these partnerships are helping us. And this artwork is beautiful as well. It'll emotionally help our residents understand what took place there. So whoever put that together is very creative, and it's wonderful to look at. So on behalf of council, thank you very much, and the city residents as well. Thank you.
Yo.
You're welcome to stay for our meeting. Madam Clerk?
Consent items. proclamation that council proclaim October 27, 2021 as Dress Purple Day in the city of Cornwall. CPEG reports. With an action recommended that council approve the following funding for 116 Pitt Street, Inc. at 116 Pitt Street for Heart of the City funding. B, 858-7248 Canada, Inc. at 8 2nd Street East for Heart of the City funding. And Lynch's Warren Soma Sundaram in Trust at 71 9th Street and 26 9th Street West for Brownfield funding. Tender 21T31, snow clearing and ice control. Recommending that this tender be awarded to H. Moyes Jr. Trucking from Cornwall at the total bid price of $9,898.80 per occurrence. RFP terms of reference for 21P09 New Transit Fare System, recommending that council receive this report. And RFP terms of reference for 21P14 Archaeological Management Plan, recommending that council receive this report.
Motion. Councillor Hebert, Councillor Bennett, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Resolution, removal of testing requirements for Canadians for U.S. land border. The operative clause is therefore be it resolved that the Corporation of the City of Cornwall requests that the federal government remove the requirement for Canadian travelers to be tested for COVID-19 when using a land crossing into the United States after the November 8th reopening.
Thank you. Councillor Carr? Seconder? Councillor Gardner? Questions, comments? Councillor Hollingsworth?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to support the resolution. I get the premise, let's make travel easy and that kind of thing, but I'm not really convinced. Well, first of all, I don't understand the science behind why the federal government has the requirement in place in the first place. So I don't know the justification. I know the report suggests that the testing is different from people coming via land versus the airports and all of that kind of stuff, but I don't really know what the science is behind requiring the testing in the first place. So because I don't really know the science and there's nothing in this particular report that makes it clear as to why or why not, when I don't understand something, I typically vote against something. So if I don't really know what the rationale was for the test in the first place, I really don't know whether it's a good idea to remove the testing kind of in the second place. So that being said, I'm not going to support the resolution.
Councillor Towndale?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question. Where is this coming from, this resolution? What generated this? Did we receive this from another organization or another municipality? Was this generated in-house? Is this from council?
I apologize. I should have explained at the start. Mayor Todd from Prescott put this resolution together and sent it around to all the mayors, especially the border cities, asking for support because I think the intent of this, I'll talk later on, but I think the intent is to open the borders for cross-border shopping and more freely than is currently there.
Thank you. If I may, I'll just make some comments. I too will actually vote against this. I mean, the motion seems tailored for Prescott, and now that you've clarified that, you know, it talks about the majority of our daily visitors being from the United States. I think for Cornwall, it's actually Akwesasne, where the majority of our daily visitors come from. So in that regard, I would find this resolution to be incorrect and potentially insulting. Furthermore, I find it odd, you know, it talks about 9/11, the Afghanistan war, the world wars. I find that very odd to draw that correlation. I don't think that should be in here. And truthfully, while the border is opening, I don't think that necessarily justifies the removal of the requirement of testing. You know, right now I don't know what the statistics are for New York State for COVID-19, but our community has some of the lowest vaccination rates in the country. And right now, you know, we want people to come in who don't have to prove they have a vaccination because we are a land border crossing. That to me is not a good idea. And in reading this resolution, the way it's worded towards the end almost makes it sound like we're asking the Canadian government to remove the US requirement for testing. So I think there's some issues for me personally with the wording, the way it's worded as well. So based on all of that, I can't support this, so I'll be voting against it. Thank you.
Councillor Bergeron?
Thank you. I echo what was just said. I won't be supporting this resolution. I did find a lot of it a bit odd, but at the end of the day, I think testing is important, so I wouldn't support this in general. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I'll speak. I'm going to be supporting it. I think the relationship between Messina and Cornwall has been very strong, and I know when you're coming in from a flight, the testing is there, but you're coming from another country, and you could be coming from other parts of the United States as well. So I think we have a good relationship with Northern New York, and I believe that this resolution is timely, and it will help the businesses in Cornwall as well. So I think in all those factors that I'll be supporting the resolution. Okay, no other comments? Record a vote.
Councillors Claude McIntosh?
No.
Dennis Carr? Yes. Sid Gardner? Yes. Dean Hollingsworth? Opposed. Caroline Hébert?
Yes.
Councillors Maurice Dupel?
Opposed.
Elaine McDonald?
Opposed?
Todd Bennett?
Opposed.
Justin Towndale?
No.
Éric Bergeron?
Opposed.
Mayor Glenn Grant?
Yes.
Motion has been defeated, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The motion is defeated. Thank you for your interest in this. Next.
Next is our unfinished business listing. So we are looking for a motion to receive this listing.
Motion. Councillor McDonald, Councillor DePel. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
We have no communication reports, nor do we have any new business motions. So moving on to bylaws. Bylaws 2021-118 to 120 inclusive, listed on the agenda, are being presented to council for adoption.
Motion. Councillor Bennett, Councillor DePel. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And we are now at the point of the meeting where we're looking for reports from standing advisory, special, and ad hoc committees of council. Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would like to speak on behalf of the Police Services Board. I want to note that unfortunately the recording of the actual change of command ceremony isn't readily available. There was some problem with the recording, which is going to be corrected at some point, but the ceremony is over. So if I may, I would just like to say a few words about the change of command ceremony and about our new Chief of Police, Shauna Spowart. So with Council's indulgence, I'd like to tell you this about the Chief, that she's a graduate of the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto, and she has consistently demonstrated a leadership role. She has been a police officer in Cornwall for 23 years, and during that time she was instrumental in the development and implementation of various strategic initiatives, including the SD&G Situation Table, the Vulnerable Sector Mobile Acute Response Team, and corporate communications. She has also served on the board of directors for Maison Baldwin House, Counseling and Support Services of SD&G, and the Cornwall and District Immigration Services Agency. Currently, she is chair of the board of directors for Koala Place and the SD&G Situation Table. Throughout her career, Chief Spowart has received various awards, including the Police Exemplary Service Medal by the Governor General, the Recognition Award for 20 years of service, and awards for excellence for team achievement, investigations, and meritorious service. And of course, with her ascension to chief, we have made history because she is the first woman to hold that position in the city of Cornwall. So from the Police Services Board and the community at large, our good wishes and congratulations go to Chief Spowart, a 23-year veteran of our services. And we know that there'll be even more wonderful things coming down the pike because the Police Services Board has just developed its new strategic plan with many initiatives that are universally approved these days. Like, for example, we're looking to have a more diverse services corps, and we're paying very special attention to the mental health and the wellness of our service members. So I think that there was a phrase that the current chief and the former chief developed together a couple of years ago, and that was a safer Cornwall. And even though we enjoy great safety, we know that our chief is committed to ensuring that we have an even safer Cornwall going forward.
Thank you, Elaine. Also, I think we'll all offer our personal congratulations when we see Shauna. So, yeah, it's exciting to see make history in Cornwall. Any other reports? Yes, Councillor McDonald.
Yes, if I may, from the arts community, this Friday evening, we're going to have the induction into the Arts Hall of Fame of 8 new members. So it's 2 years in the making because we didn't have a celebration last year. So this year we're catching up and celebrating publicly those members who were nominated last year. So there'll be 19 people recognized at the Ramada Inn Friday night. It'll be a pretty wonderful ceremony.
Good, thank you. That's good news. Nothing else, Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Mayor, that is the last item, so we are looking for the adoption of the confirming bylaw.
Motion? Councillor Dupel, Councillor Bergeron, all in favor? Opposed?
Our
Just,
next meeting, Mr. Mayor, we have a special council meeting on November 1st, followed by our regular public meeting of council on Monday, November 8th.
Madam CAO?
Perhaps if I could just speak to council with respect to, we're planning a special council meeting a week from this evening, Monday, November 1st at 5 p.m. We have got the completed information for the environmental assessment in relation to a project looking at a secondary raw water intake for our water purification plant. So we have our consultants that will be available. We wanted to make that presentation to council next Monday evening, and then certainly give council that agenda. I think we're almost ready to put that information out, so that'll likely get shared with council by, I would say, Wednesday morning.
So, awareness. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Gardner, Councillor Hollingsworth, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you for a good meeting.